Caught in a web of lies. My girlfriend used our savings for a secret vacation with her ex. I'm 28, and not too long ago, I thought I had life pretty well figured out. I had a stable job, a decent apartment, and a girlfriend I honestly thought I'd marry one day. Her name was Cece, and we'd been together close to 3 years. I wasn't one of those hopeless romantic types, but I'd started imagining a future with her. Maybe a house, a couple of kids, growing old together. It just felt right. When we first met, everything about her seemed perfect. She was smart, funny, and had this spark about her that lit up the room. I fell hard for her. And back then, I really believed she felt the same way about me. Sure, our relationship had its ups and downs. What relationship doesn't? But I was all in. I trusted her with everything. Then, a few months ago, little things started to feel off. It wasn't anything big at first, just small stuff. Like how she'd laugh at her phone, but wouldn't say what was so funny, or how she suddenly started carrying it with her everywhere, even into the bathroom. That wasn't like her. I brushed it off at first. Everyone needs some space, right? But it kept happening. I'd walk into the room, and she'd tilt her screen away or lock it real quick, like she didn't want me to see something. I chalked it up to stress. She had a tough job. But then came all these surprise work trips and sudden girls' weekends. She'd never done that before. Still, I didn't want to come across as controlling, so I tried to play it cool. But deep down, something didn't sit right. You ever get that gut feeling that just won't leave you alone, no matter how much your brain says everything's fine? That was me. One night while we were watching TV, I brought it up, casual as I could. Hey, you've been traveling a lot lately. Everything all right at work? She shrugged without even looking at me. Yeah, just busy. Why? I tried to laugh it off, said, no reason. Just feels like you've been on the go a lot lately. She glanced over, gave me this smile that didn't reach her eyes, and said, you worry too much. Maybe I did. Maybe she was right. I wanted to believe that, I really did. But the feeling just kept growing. Every time she mentioned another trip or got defensive when I asked a simple question, it got worse. She started putting her phone face down on the table. She'd get weird if I walked in while she was texting, like she didn't want me knowing who she was talking to. Still, I'd tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. I told myself I was overthinking, but then I checked our joint savings account. We'd opened it together when we started planning for a house. It felt like a big step back then, like we were really building something. I didn't check it often since most of the money came from my paycheck, and I trusted her to manage it. But that day, I took a look and saw a $3,000 withdrawal. Just gone. No warning, no explanation. My heart dropped. That wasn't normal. We had a rule. Anything over $500, we'd talk about it first. It wasn't about control. It was about being partners, staying on the same page. So why hadn't she told me? I tried to stay calm. Maybe there was an emergency? Maybe she just forgot to mention it. That night over dinner, I asked, real calm-like, hey, what's up with the $3,000 withdrawal? Did you buy something big? She didn't even look up from her phone, just said, oh yeah, I booked a girls' trip with Maria, like it was no big deal. A girls' trip? She hadn't mentioned that before. I tried to keep my cool. You didn't tell me about any trip, I said. She looked up, rolled her eyes, and said, I didn't think I needed to give you a play-by-play of my plans. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't asking for a detailed itinerary. I just wanted to know why $3,000 vanished from our savings. I told her, it's just, that's a lot of money. We're supposed to be saving for a house, remember? She gave me a look like I was being dramatic. Relax, we'll make it back. It's not the end of the world. Her attitude set something off in me, but I held my tongue. Maybe she did need a break. Maybe I was blowing things out of proportion. But that night, lying in bed, staring up at the ceiling, I couldn't shake it. Something was wrong. That's when I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her phone. It wasn't a decision I made lightly. We always had this silent agreement, no snooping. I'd seen relationships crash and burn over stuff like that, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. Her phone was right there on the nightstand, and my gut was screaming. My hands were shaking when I picked it up. She never changed her passcode. Probably never thought I'd check. At first, I didn't see anything unusual. Just normal texts with friends, coworkers, her family. For a second, I thought I was wrong. Then I opened her email. That's when it started coming together. Flight confirmations, hotel bookings, rental car receipts, all under her name. But the dates didn't match the story she gave me, and there was no mention of her friend Maria. Then I found a message thread with a guy named Nick. My heart dropped. It wasn't just some innocent back and forth. It was detailed planning for a romantic getaway, jokes about sneaking around, inside comments about how worth it the trip would be. This wasn't some fling. This was planned. She'd looked me in the eye, lied to my face, and used our savings to do it. The phone rang, and I knew it was her. I let it ring a few times before picking it up, trying to keep my voice as calm as possible. "What's up?" I said, acting like everything was fine. "What the hell did you do?" she shouted, panic in her voice. "My card's getting declined everywhere. What's going on with the account?" I leaned back in my chair, a small smirk creeping onto my face. "Oh, I froze it," I said casually, as if I were talking about the weather. "Figured it was the least I could do after finding out you're on vacation with your ex." There was dead silence on the other end. All I could hear was her uneven breathing. I imagined her standing there, clutching the phone, trying to figure out what to say next. Then she denied it. "It's not what you think," she said quickly, her voice trembling. "Cut the crap," I interrupted, my tone turning cold. "I read the email, Cece. I saw the texts. You've been planning this for weeks." She tried to come up with an excuse, but I wasn't having it. "Why?" I asked, cutting her off mid-sentence. "Why would you do this? If you wanted to be with him, why didn't you just leave me?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she said, her voice breaking. I let out a bitter laugh, the sound hollow even to me. "You didn't want to hurt me?" I repeated. "So you lied to me, stole our money, and went on a vacation with your ex. That was your brilliant plan to not hurt me?" She didn't answer right away. I could feel her struggling, trying to find something that would make sense. Then, out of nowhere, her tone shifted. The guilt was gone, replaced with anger. "Oh no, what?" she snapped. "Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with saving for that stupid house, I wouldn't have needed to do this. You've been so focused on the future, you forgot about me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What the hell are you talking about?" I shot back. "You couldn't have talked to me, told me how you were feeling? Instead, you sneak around behind my back and spend our money on this?" She let out an exasperated sigh, like I was the unreasonable one. "You just don't get it," she said. "I needed space. I needed time away to think." "With him?" I asked, my voice dripping with disbelief. "You needed space from me, so you went on vacation with your ex? How does that make sense?" "It's just a friend," she snapped, frustration boiling over. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "Right," I said, my jaw clenching so tight it hurt. "Just a friend. That's why you had to lie about it. That's why you hid it from me." She fell silent. I could feel her mind racing, trying to figure out a way to make this all make sense, but I wasn't interested in hearing it. "When we're done," I said, cutting through the silence. "What?" she asked, her voice cracking. "You're breaking up with me over this?" I laughed bitterly, the sound almost unrecognizable. "Are you seriously acting surprised right now?" I asked. "You lied to me, stole our money, and went on a secret trip with your ex. What did you think was going to happen?" "You can't just leave me stranded here," she yelled, panic creeping into her voice. "How am I supposed to get home?" "Not my problem," I said coldly. "You made your choices. Now deal with the consequences. I hung up before she could say another word, my hands shaking as I set the phone down. The anger and adrenaline were still running through me, but underneath it all, there was something else, a dull ache. As much as I wanted to feel nothing for her, the truth was, I had loved her, or at least I thought I had. And now it was all gone, just like that. The hours that followed were a blur. I couldn't sit still. My mind kept racing, thinking about everything that had just happened. Part of me felt guilty for freezing the account, but every time I thought about those texts, that guilt vanished. She had lied to me, betrayed me in the worst way, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. By the end of the day, I started taking steps to cut her out of my life completely. The first step was moving out of the apartment. I didn't want to be there any longer than I had to, surrounded by memories of a life that clearly meant nothing to her. Packing was surreal. Every object I picked up reminded me of her. A mug from a trip, a blanket we'd shared while binge-watching TV shows. It all felt tainted now, like I couldn't separate the good memories from the betrayal. I rented a storage unit for my stuff and started crashing at a friend's place. I couldn't bring myself to stay in the apartment for even one more night. The landlord was understanding when I explained the situation and let me break my part of the lease early. Cece, of course, was still responsible for her half. Not my problem anymore. While I was packing, Cece's texts started pouring in. She was furious at first, demanding that I fix the account situation and calling me all kinds of names. Then her tone shifted. She started begging, saying she was sorry and that we could work it out. It was laughable. The sheer audacity of her trying to patch things up after what she'd done was unreal. I didn't respond to a single message. I had already blocked her on most platforms, but left her number unblocked for a couple of days just to see what she'd try next. It didn't take long for her to start guilt-tripping me. "You're overreacting," one text read. "I just needed a break to clear my head. It wasn't a big deal." A big deal? She blew $3,000 of our savings, lied to my face, and went on a romantic getaway with her ex. How was that not a big deal? Another message came through shortly after. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you and I want us to move past this." Move past this? I couldn't believe what I was reading. The more she texted, the angrier I got. Finally, I blocked her number too. I didn't need to see any more of her twisted attempts to rewrite the situation. A couple of days later, mutual friends started reaching out. Apparently, Cece had wasted no time spreading her version of the story. According to her, I was some heartless monster who abandoned her in the middle of nowhere and left her penniless. She conveniently left out the part where she lied, cheated, and used our joint account to fund her little vacation. The first time I heard about it, I actually laughed. It was so typical of her to play the victim. She was good at manipulating people, twisting situations to make herself look innocent. But this time, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I started telling my side of the story to anyone who would listen. I didn't hold back. I showed them the texts, the emails, even screenshots of the bank account transactions. Most people were shocked. A few said they'd always suspected something was off about her, that she had a way of making everything about her. Others, though, still sided with her. They believed her sad story about being abandoned and thought I was in the wrong for freezing the account. At first, it bothered me. I wanted everyone to see her for who she really was, but eventually I realized it didn't matter. The people who mattered believed me, and that was enough. One of the hardest parts was dealing with the practical fallout. Freezing the account was satisfying in the moment, but it also meant untangling all the shared finances we'd built up over 3 years. We'd been saving for a house, and while most of the money in the account was mine, some of it was hers. Legally, she was entitled to her share, but I wasn't in a rush to sort it out. She sent me a long, angry email about it a week later. "You can't just keep all the money for yourself," she wrote. "We saved that together, and I deserve my half." I didn't even bother replying. I'd already contacted my bank and explained the situation. They told me they couldn't release any funds without both account holders' signatures, which meant Cece couldn't touch a dime unless I agreed to it. I wasn't about to make it easy for her. Let her sweat it out. She'd already burned through most of her own money on the trip, and from what I'd heard, the flights and hotel were non-refundable. She'd screwed herself over, and I wasn't going to lift a finger to help. As time went on, I started to feel a strange mix of emotions. On one hand, I was furious at her for what she'd done. On the other hand, I was angry at myself for ignoring the red flags. Looking back, there were so many moments when I should have seen it coming. The defensiveness, the secrecy, the way she brushed off my concerns, it was all there. I just didn't want to believe it. I'd loved her, or at least I thought I did. But now I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been in love with an illusion. The person I thought I knew, the person I thought I was building, she's crying, claiming I abandoned her, left her broke. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. Manipulating people had always been her thing. At first, I tried to stay out of it. I figured the truth would eventually come out. But when I started hearing rumors that I'd stolen her money and left her stranded in another country, I knew I couldn't just stay quiet. I wasn't about to let her rewrite the story and paint herself as the innocent one. So, I started sharing my side of things. I didn't hold back. I showed people the texts, the emails, and the joint account transactions. I told them how she'd used our savings to fund a vacation with her ex, and only felt bad about it when she realized I wasn't going to play along. Most folks were shocked. Some even admitted they'd always thought she was manipulative, but hadn't seen it like this before. But, of course, there were still a few who sided with her. One friend said, clearly uncomfortable, "Don't you think freezing the account was a little extreme?" Extreme? Maybe. But it wasn't unjustified. She used my trust, my money, and our future as leverage for her fling. I wasn't going to let her off the hook, and I wasn't going to apologize for protecting myself. If people didn't see that, I wasn't going to waste my time convincing them. A couple of weeks later, she sent me this long, angry email titled, "Let's be adults about this." I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. The email was a masterpiece of manipulation. She accused me of being petty for freezing the account, said I was ruining her life by telling my side of things, and demanded half of the savings. She even tried to guilt trip me, claiming she never meant to hurt me and just needed time to think. I stared at the screen for a while, debating whether to respond. Part of me wanted to let it all out, the anger, the betrayal, the hurt. But another part of me knew it wouldn't matter. Cece wasn't the type to take responsibility. She'd twist my words, use them against me, and walk away thinking she'd won. So I didn't respond. I forwarded the email to my bank, asked them to add it to the file on the joint account, and kept a record in case she tried anything legal. Then I deleted the email and blocked her address. Problem solved? As the weeks turned into months, I started feeling lighter. The anger and bitterness from the breakup started to fade, replaced by a strange sense of clarity. For the first time in years, I could breathe again. No more lies, no more walking on eggshells around someone who didn't care. It was freeing. I threw myself into work, picked up extra projects to keep busy, and started hitting the gym regularly. Not just to stay fit, but to clear my head. I even reconnected with some old friends I'd lost touch with. It felt like I was finding pieces of myself I'd forgotten about. At first, I stayed away from dating. I wasn't ready to put myself out there again, and I wasn't sure I could trust my own judgment after everything that happened. 3 years with someone who turned out to be a stranger? How could I be sure I wouldn't make the same mistake again? But as time passed, I grew more confident. I realized that what happened with Cece wasn't all on me. Yeah, I missed some red flags, and sure, I could have handled things better, but her actions were her own. I didn't make her lie, cheat, or steal. That was all on her. Every now and then, I'd hear updates about her. Apparently, her ex didn't stick around after the trip. She'd been crashing at a friend's place because she couldn't afford rent, and word was she was struggling to find a new job. I won't lie, part of me felt a little satisfaction at her downfall. Karma, right? You get what you give. But the truth is, it didn't matter. Cece wasn't part of my life anymore, and her problems weren't mine. I'd spent enough energy on her already. The biggest lesson I learned from all this was simple. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. I ignored so many signs because I wanted to believe she was better than she was. I told myself she wouldn't lie, wouldn't betray me, but I was wrong. People don't change just because you want them to. They change because they want to. Cece clearly didn't. Looking back, I'm grateful for the experience. As painful as it was, it taught me to trust my instincts, set boundaries, and value myself enough to walk away from people who don't. Sure, I lost 3 years to someone who didn't deserve me, but I gained something much more important: self-respect. Now, I'm in a better place. I've moved into a new apartment, made some new friends, and even started dating again. It's not easy, but I'm taking it slow. One thing's for sure, I'll never settle for less than I deserve. As for Cece, the last I heard, she was still couch surfing, trying to scrape together enough to get back on her feet. I don't know if she's learned anything from all this, and honestly, I don't care. She made her choices, I made mine. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.